There's my contact info. So San Jose Water, we're a private water utility up in or down in San Jose, California. And like many utilities, we do maintenance. We've got about 2,800 miles of main, plus or minus a few there and there. And we do different types of work out in the field every day. So we wanted to have a better way to coordinate and communicate with our customers to help them understand what's happening out in front of their house, or just better plan their day where appropriate. And so right now, we created an application we call a System Impact Administrator. And what it does in effect is architecturally, it gives you a web form, and I'll show it to you in a few minutes. And that web form will then call the FME server API, and then the FME server API will generate a bunch of stats, and then furthermore, it actually updates, so it creates a web page and other information and sends it up to sjwater.com. Then we have one more process after the fact that will actually upload it to, or post it to Facebook and Twitter as well. So that's kind of what I said. Some of the things we track right now are water main flushing. I actually want to show that. So our truck right here, we actually, because of the drought in California, as you guys likely know about, we actually have a water flushing truck. So for those who don't know, in a potable water system where we have dead end mains, like a court would be an example of that, you want to flush out that water because it has no place to go. And so what we did here is we bought a truck 2 years ago, so in the middle of a big drought. Because the one way to do it is use a fire hydrant or a blow-off valve. And that literally spews water, gallons upon gallons of water into the street. Not very PC in California in 2016. So as a result, we bought a truck. This truck actually is called a no-des truck, and it actually has pipes, so hoses on hydrant here and a hydrant over here. So that's out of scale per se. And it actually will go ahead and take the water from hydrant A down to hydrant B, and so we don't have any water waste or very little water waste. And so it was really a way to try to avoid the many phone calls we'd get. We were pouring a lot of water in all the streets, and 3 or 4 years ago. So anyway, that was a photo of the water. So things we tracked though are water main flushing, leaks, main replacements, and low flow events. Low flow events are typically just when we have something affecting the water service, but we don't have zero water service. So the workspaces are pretty well annotated, et cetera. So there's a link to download them yourself if you're so curious. So FMEWT_2017. And there are 2 workspaces that go ahead and make this all function. So the first one, we actually have a network trace API that we use. So that's what we actually use to, a person will geocode a location, find a location on the map, will then pass that location off to our network trace API. That will then identify who actually is impacted by this outage. So past that point, we hand it off to, we get a KML file back from that API, and then that KML file is then passed off to FME server. So an FME server does the rest of its work. So it's creating this polygon right here, and it's creating the stats down here as well. Once that part's done, they're asked to fill out the rest of the form, other minutia. Then that's then passed off. The form is then passed off to FME server again, and I'll show this to you as well, right here for number 2. And number 2 workspace will go ahead and take the impacted polygon, make it more generalized, and then it creates an HTML report using the HTML report generator. And then past that point, it'll call Google Static Maps to get a static map as well. That's what goes up to sjwater.com and also up to social media as well. So it does all of that, all as part of the second workspace. And so I'll show you a brief demonstration of how that works. So So that's our service area in San Jose, California. And I'll just type in an address here. It's always faster in California, but Google's too smart for me. Okay. So that was just a simple Google geocode. And this is a leaflet map right here with the Google Map backdrop. And I'll just drag it onto a main. And it'll snap onto that main. So if you want, I can add more than one flag. I'm oh so adventurous. And now it's running, now it's hitting our, we call main break. This is our network trace tool. You see the results have been returned already. So now you're seeing this actually is KML results. It's still working, so now it's actually gone into and passed that KML file off to FME. And FME went ahead and created this larger generalized polygon, and furthermore created these stats separately. And so if I expand this out, we see how many, the material and diameter of the main that will be impacted, also the hardness that will be impacted as well. And it all comes right from FME at that point in time. So then the user is prompted to fill out this information, emergency scheduled, type of impact, all the way through. And here actually is the results KML file as well for reference. If you want to send it off to someone else, that's also attached as well. So I won't hit save here, but I will show one that already exists. All right, cancel. Don't save one of those two. And while that's canceling, I'll show you the results that you would see. So this right now is on sjwater.com, so off of our system impacts link. This is live data right now on sjwater.com, right? And so that went up to sjwater.com, and if I were to go back to the calendar that I canceled out of right here, right, this actually it actually was a live impact that someone created. So if I hit save, this is what you'd see with this data here filled out. I just didn't want to hit save because it creates a notice for someone, and that's not good news. So anyways, that's what the user, sorry, that's what our employee would fill out. And again, the result goes to sjwater.com, which you're seeing right here. If I click on one of these, it's going to bring up the HTML report that was created by FME. So that was that second workspace that runs. And then a day beforehand, so 24 hours or less, we'll set it up to social media as well, so both Facebook and also Twitter. So we obviously modify the content of the post depending on the medium. So, but here you're seeing on the San Jose Water Company Facebook page, we try to explain it in pretty good detail what we're actually doing. So let them know. And then if you go in here, back onto that same, oops, sorry, that's the main flushing. You click on the link here. This gets flushing and actually goes to that video I mentioned, our no-des truck. So try to give them a lot of information as to what we're actually doing out in the field. So we had a video created, which I won't show, but gives you more information as well. So again, our goal here is to really try to keep our customers informed as to what's happening in front of their house. Try to drive down phone calls. Big goal of ours. So instead of going ahead and showing you the workspaces, since I already gave those to you, I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of the key transformers that help drive and make that possible. Again, it's really well annotated. I went ahead and added comments everywhere, so it's pretty clear what's happening. So the first one actually is the HTML report generator, which Don, back in our FME World Tour in San Francisco, that was his quote up there at the top left. Probably the lamest writer we've ever released. So I thought it was really cool. So I tweeted that actually out, and I was able to use it about a year ago. And that one's key. So it allows you to, in conjunction with the report generator, it allows you to create a pretty simple HTML page, embed a map, embed a graph, do a combination of stuff. So it's not horribly flexible, it's not greatly flexible, but it's definitely pretty powerful for very generic stuff. Worked great in this case. One downside, though, to the HTML report generator is that you can put attributes into it, but they all go away. So that can get kind of challenging. So it's more challenging. You're trying to actually get things past that point. And so we end up doing a lot of variable setters and variable retrievers. So that's what you're seeing down here. So, and that allowed us to populate the variable at the start of the process and then go ahead and retrieve it as needed to use it later on in the process. So that was really, really powerful. Another key one was, sorry, this is small on my screen, the attribute file writer. And so that's what allowed us to take the call a Google static map API, get the result back down. Because you don't have a way to write it to S3 in our case. Amazon S3 is what we use, so not directly. And so we had to bring it down, write it locally, and then move it up to S3 later on. That's what you're seeing here. So all these are the same thing in effect, right? Just different ways of handling that problem. So whether it's the, look up here, it's easier to read it up here. Whether it's the S3 uploader, the Dropbox connector, the FTP file caller, the box file uploader, or attribute file writer, right? They all in effect do the same thing, right? The goal is to try to expose that HTML report and the result Google static map PNG up onto our internet site and be able to be consumed, both through social media and also through our report. What we also wanted to do is that what I didn't show you earlier is that when we also hit save there, we do some other processing. So we actually create a PDF report. So we hit that. So that's attached after the fact, so it's kind of confusing in that sense, but. So we create a report here that's used by internal folks, and we also fax this. I don't know why we fax still, but it's faxed over to either the city of San Jose, so there's 2 fire departments that run most of the county, so either the Santa Clara County or the city of San Jose. And so we fax a form or forms over to the respective fire department. So this is the form we send over to, in this case, San Jose Fire. And so these files, though, when they're attached, when these files are generated, we need to make sure we give them a correct path. And so we wrote in this case, a JavaScript to just make sure we had the right path created on our local file store. And that's what we use. So either Python caller or the JavaScript caller, either one would work. We chose JS in this case, just made it easier for this one instance. And there is no great out-of-the-box PDF report generation. It's still a challenge in FME. And so what we did here, we found a custom transformer in the hub that's called the HTML to PDF converter. And that one worked really, really well. So we actually took the HTML report from the report generator and then converted it to a PDF. And that's what you saw attached a second ago that I showed you. And so that worked really well for us. It is a little challenging to set up only because you have to download a custom library, so an open source library. So you just got to make sure to install that on your local version of FME and also on the server if you want to go server side. So it works great though. It's really easy to use, and the output works really, really well. And we also use the file property extractor. Our goal there is, if you look back in the UI, we show you, I think, yeah, right here it's hard to see, but we show you the size of the attached or attachments. So not so important if you're in the office, but this is designed to be responsive, so we're out in the field as well. And so our goal was to make sure we weren't, if for some reason it got really big, we want to make sure to let them know it wasn't going to be a 5 megabyte file. And so, so that transformer allowed us to go through and mine that file for the file size and also the file type, and that was then stored inside of the database just as metadata back for the end user to see. So made it a bit more clear and clean. So. And last but not least, how do we get to social media? So there is the tweet, something like that inside FME, but nothing for Facebook. And we didn't want to have to go in two different directions, and so we use a third-party tool called Zapier. Some of you may know Zapier. There actually is an FME cloud tied to Zapier as well. So Zapier, for those that don't know what it is, it's a giant recipe book. So you start with a service and end with a service. And so start with an email and write to Evernote. Start with a Flickr photo and put it into Dropbox, right? So a way to write a recipe can be really, really long for the most part. You'll see some here, right here are two, right? Start with an event, end with an event. So allows you to do integrations between a ton of different system services, et cetera, without having to write any real code. It's all UI based. So it's really, really nice and powerful. If you're battling with that at all, I'd recommend it for sure. It's free for a certain level. So we pay for a higher price, but it's even that, it's like $40 a month or something like that. It's not bad at all. So we generalized our calls to both Facebook and also Twitter using Zapier just to make life easier and more simple. So they manage our APIs for us. We just write to our database. And so we have a Postgres database, or actually PostGIS database on sjwire.com in our AWS environment. And so we write from our internal database up to Postgres using still FME. That was part of that last workspace. Once it's up there, we have a view that will read the effective dates for all the records in the table. If the view is if the event is within 24 hours, it'll appear in that view. So Zapier, in effect, sees it as being a new insert into that view. It can read Postgres. It does some date manipulation, and then writes it up to both Facebook and also Twitter. So works really, really well. So we create an image tweet and also a Facebook page post. So also really nice because there are differences between the APIs, between a Facebook personal post and a Facebook page post for a company or whatever else. So that's all I had. Any questions? I think she has the microphone, right? I think she wants to.
Do you have an established geometric network?
We are not currently an Esri shop, so we don't. We actually have a third-party network tracing tool that we had created. So big reason for that was because we have an enterprise GIS. So we've got and we have a lot of folks who don't run online still. And so we have a customized data viewer that we have on every single laptop out in the field. And they have a tool called Mainbreak, and that allows us to get rid of the Esri licenses. So it was a flat fee and worked really well for us. So.
Do you have any metrics on the how much this reduced your call volume, or are you guys satisfied with what you've gotten?
That's a great question. We haven't measured it, and it's a bit challenging bringing you back over to Facebook. I'm logged in as my Facebook account. Sorry, right there. And so you can see, a lot of these things aren't really well reached. Those that are familiar with Facebook metrics, 9 isn't very good, right? That means 9 folks saw it. So it depends. We'll occasionally get a like. I'm not sure if you actually wouldn't want to like it anyway, frankly. But something will get kind of high. I don't know if it's alleviated a lot of call volume, but we have seen, though, regardless, is that before we had an Outlook calendar, that at best was maintained by one department. And so this right here, I cancel again. It's usually pretty fast, actually. But this here actually is used by customer service. So even if it's not been all the way through, they at least have a one-stop shop as opposed to calling maintenance, calling operations, calling departments, trying to figure it out. So we do get occasional comments, and so I know it is driving some engagement, but we only have 3,400 Facebook followers anyway, so it's a pretty small amount. Now our sjwater.com/impacts page, so this page, is one of our heavier hit pages. And so I do know that folks are going there at least for that. So one of our larger challenges we still have is that it was designed to run off of any mobile device, browser-based, right? So phone, laptop, et cetera. We have had little engagement for our off-hour shifts. So if we have an emergency, oftentimes they won't update it over the weekends. And so we will find that calls will go up because they don't use this, even though we're trying to coach them to use it. So that's been a work in progress for us. So, but yeah, so there has been success. I can't say how much, but definitely success though with it.
Hi. Have you thought about using a SMS service for the people that's affected?
We have. We actually, for those that know Twilio, that API, we were playing with it a number of years ago. We decided to go into a different direction. So we have on our customer systems side, they actually have an outbound calling tool that integrates with our current customer system. And so we're going to be doing that as part of that. So one of the things we have as part of this process, which I didn't show, it's buried right now, but we have in effect, the primary keys to contact these people if we wanted to. And so that's more of a tie-on point at some point.
Same thing.
Okay.
Andrew's got a follow-up.
Trying to get you some steps.
Yeah, thank you.
How do you handle authentication to your actually submit reports, and does that integrate with your like Microsoft environment?
Yes, that's how we do it. Yeah, so it's integrated with AD for us.
So is that actually that water server, is that in AWS, or is that hosted by like on-prem or something like that?
So this here, this you mean?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So this is the admin. This is on-premise for us. Yeah.
Okay, so
So-
then that just kind of touches your Microsoft environment and does
Yep.
all that.
Yeah, my photo's here because right now I'm authenticated right now.
It's a great photo.
Hey, thank you
It's a
very
great
much.
photo.
Yeah, so right now I'm authenticated. If I do it in my Mac, which if I didn't do it in the Mac, I'd have to authenticate myself manually. So yeah, so it's authenticated, which is really nice because then we can go ahead and just add them to an AD group, and they're able, ready to use it however they want to. So it's part of a regular workflow. So.
Hi, Jeff. Just a question. When you write into Facebook, do you need to have your own token? Using Zapier, of course.
So Zapier does OAuth, and so there's no token, yeah. So it does a direct OAuth connection to between Facebook and my account. So the account in Zapier is actually tied off to just me, myself, right? So it's my authentication, it's my password. So yeah, there's no token, no, just direct authentication via OAuth.
Could you share the link for your workspace?
Sure. There you go.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all.